Okay, guys, so we got some new information about one of my favorite franchises. Also, maybe some things that might be a bit of a concern. What is going on, fellow board members? Welcome to the boardroom. I am Ords, guys, and today we are taking a look at an article from sci-fi.com. Emmy contender Lisa Henson explains what's next for Netflix's Dark Crystal show and taking inspiration from Star Wars. So I am really curious just with this initial headline. Very curious to mean what they mean by taking inspiration from Star Wars. Are we talking Disney Star Wars? Are we talking the original trilogy? Are we talking the prequels? Because those all have very different tones, very different pacings. So very curious to see what this article has to say, or what Lisa Henson has to say about what is next for Dark Crystal. Now, for those of you who know, Dark Crystal has been nominated for an Emmy. I believe it's for Outstanding Kids Show or the Best Kids Show. I don't know how these award ceremonies work, and I'm not going to pretend like I do. My point here being is Dark Crystal was nominated for an Emmy, so they're talking to some of the contenders and what's next. I really hope that they put together a second season for this show. I loved the first season. I think a lot of kids, a lot of families liked it, a lot of adults liked it, and especially it was a good honoring of the original source material. It was a good honoring of the fans. It just all around good. The best part about it is Disney wasn't involved, so they had free reign to kind of do what they want with it, and it worked out really great. But anyway, guys, let's go ahead and dive into this article and see what we're looking at. The journey from the cult classic film The Dark Crystal to its prequel series, The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, has taken nearly 35 years, but now the future of this live-action return to the world of Thra has been put into jeopardy after just one season by the coronavirus pandemic. The Jim Henson Company, the producer of the series, received a federal payroll protection program bailout, the PPE stuff that businesses got, approximately $2 million. Wow, that's a lot of money. $2 million to the Jim Henson Company to stay afloat during this thing. That's a lot of money, so hopefully they've used it right, and then we could go forward from there. I would really hate to see Jim Henson Company go under for something like this, but it is happening. It is a real thing because of the coof that's going on. Businesses, even big successful businesses, are hurting. So, in order to retain its 75-person staff after live-action production and the Jim Henson Creature Shop were shut down, new Thra stories have continued to appear over the years in book and graphic novel form, but the fate of the Age of Resistance series remains uncertain. I mean, $2 million, I'd like to think, especially since I think we shut down back in March with everything, I'd like to think that they used that money wisely. And hopefully, knock on wood, we can get at least one more series out of this. I don't feel like that story was quite complete, and I would love to see another season, just at least one more season. Just give us more, because it was good, and I do get excited about it. And this is just a great show. Let's hope that this is not the case, that the Jim Henson Company has to shut down. So one of the things that I thought was quite interesting here is how it got a children's Emmy, or a children's series Emmy, which really, like I say here, similar to the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, nominated in the children's series category, transcends that age group. Yeah, definitely. I would have to say the majority of people who watch this are probably my age, adults, in their 30s to 40s, maybe even a little bit older than that. People who were there for the original. So it is kind of weird that it did get a children's, nomination. But, I don't know if it would have any other way, to be honest with you, just because, it is kind of a niche franchise for people. It's kind of a cult classic, so to speak. So, I'm just glad it got nominated for something, because the work that went into it and the work that the Jim Henson Company has put into the Dark Crystal ever since its inception deserves to be recognized. All right, guys, so now we're starting to dive into some of the plot details into this article. The author of this article asks, when I last spoke with co-creators Will Matthews and Jeff Addis, they mentioned that Season 1 covered about 60% of their original pitch. I know the pandemic complicates things, but what does this mean for Season 2? Is the remaining 40% something that we could see in Season 2? Very good question. That is interesting that they only worked or figured out 60% of what their original pitch was. So I mean, I think you could even see that in the season that there was more story that these guys wanted to tell, but just didn't have the framework to put it in. All right, guys. So this is how Lisa responds. Well, the interesting thing about Dark Crystal, it's like a mini Star Wars type franchise for us, because even looking at the first film, we're talking about what happened 1,000 Thrine before. We jump back into that time, but we also know what's going to happen in the future. And we think about stories that were going on at the same time, but in these other parts of Thra. They're talking about like the comic books and the books, and there has been some novels that have come out. They've been hitting the comic books heavy, so we do have some lore going on back in that time. They did an Age of Resistance comic. I think that's still happening. I'm not sure if where it's at with the coof and everything, but I know comic books are shipping again. We have a graphic novel series that is set in a different world of the Firelings in Mithra, which I have. If you guys go watch, it's essentially a direct sequel to the movie. I believe it's either The Power of the Dark Crystal. I think it's The Power of the Dark Crystal. I can't remember. But if you read that run, it bleeds into this next one, which introduces you to a new world on Thra. If you guys have not read that book, go check out that book. I know it's like a 12 issues series. I'm sure you can get it in a trade paperback all in one shot. But it is interesting, and it does introduce you to some new characters and some new beings existing in the world of Thra. So yeah, go check that out, guys. So we've been thinking of Thra as a world that has a reality to it in the past, the present, and the future, and even inside the world. There is even an astral aspect to it. Because of Algra's astral travels in her observatory, we can explore this world from all different sides, which I think is really cool. I'd really like to see a comic run, because like if you guys watch the show, Algra wakes up from traveling for 1,000 Thrine. I think it was 1,000 Thrine. It was either 100 or 1,000, but I'd really like to see a comic book series where Algra is traveling through what she sees, what she learns, maybe explain a little bit more as to how the Skeksis and the Mystics came to be. I know the crystal cracked, but I'm sure there's more to it than that. Or maybe where the original beings came to be. I would love to see something like that. That'd be pretty cool. So another part of the article I thought was kind of interesting. The author asks, would you like to incorporate those kinds of stories in television? Or would you continue where season 1 left off? What they're talking about is the novels, the comic books. Would you guys incorporate those stories within a TV series? Whether it be Age of Resistance or maybe, the Dark Crystal, moving on to something else, maybe another time period. I'm not sure. But as of right now, what I would think, at least in my opinion, what I would do is build on what you have now as the Age of Resistance, do another season or two, put that together, and then maybe begin to introduce something into a different series. But let people discover those new characters, these new creatures in the comic book, and then introduce them into a series maybe down the road, because this series was successful, and I really like to see it go as many seasons as it can, but these are big productions to put together. So if we do get a second season, a third season, it's going to be some time in between the two, or maybe they'll wise up and just film it all together and then break it down, kind of like what they did with Lord of the Rings. I think that might be a good idea, but anyway, guys, let's check out the response here. We don't actually know if we did more production, whether it would be the continuation of this story, or if it would be about the Firelings, or if it would be another story. So that kind of tells me that they haven't planned anything out. It kind of tells me there's been no go-ahead. There's been no, okay, let's film season 2, or if they even begun to film season 2, which it doesn't sound like they did based upon what Lisa Henson is saying here. So Lisa also says they had originally pitched 13 episodes and the Netflix ordered 10, so it was already shortened. And when we shortened it, and then we shortened it further, so they shortened it even further than what they originally intended. So I really like to see these 3 episodes that were missing. I think that would be great. That would be fantastic. I mean, if the footage is already there, you only need so many people to edit that thing and put it out there. Maybe like a continuation of the story. Give us something. Maybe not necessarily. I mean, here's the thing. You could separate those episodes. You could launch those episodes, one at a time for a while. I mean, just something to kind of curve people's appetite for something like this, because I know there are people who are waiting to get back to this universe. All right, so here's an interesting question in the article. Hopefully this video doesn't go too long, but it says, the author asks, pre-pandemic, Jeff and Will thought about a second season might focus on prophecy. I was trying to figure out if the pandemic itself, forcing production to go on pause, requiring new safety protocols when you resume, might actually influence the story and which characters you want to feature. Puppeteering has different conditions. Lisa responds here, yeah, that's true. Laughs. We could shift over to animation or something. Now, I want to hope that laugh is just jokingly, because because they tried that. If you guys watch the documentary with the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, you'll see that they tried to add some animation stuff into it, and it just didn't look like it was going to work. So ultimately, they went with real puppets, which I think is the smart idea. Here's the thing: yes, we want this. Yes, people want this bad. I am willing to wait for it. If that means if you're going to do an animation instead, or continue the story in an animation, I don't have any interest in continuing the story through an animation. Now, if you want to start maybe another timeline, another story in an animation, okay, I'd be more interested in that. But please do not continue this storyline in an animated thing. I think it just takes away from the beauty and the allure of what has already happened with the Age of Resistance. Just a funny question to end this interview on: could you even do a quarantine one-off episode with just the Podlings? Well, that's so funny, Lisa says. A Podling pop-out episode. We'll pass that idea on. I think it'd be interesting. I think the Podlings are cute. They're fun. Maybe have Hup focused on Hup as the main character. I think that would be kind of interesting. I think with like the Muppets Now show, which I'm going to do reviews for those stills for episodes 3 and 4. We're going to talk about them. I'm not going to talk about them now, but you could kind of do what they're doing. You really just need a green screen and a Podling puppet. I think you could pull it off that way, but yeah, I think that'd be cool with that, a Podling pop-out episode. Hopefully they do that. All right, guys, so here's a little morsel at the end of the interview, which I thought was kind of cool. Is this also the case for the Labyrinth sequel? How is that going? Lisa responds, it's just being written right now. Scott Derrickson and a writer are working on the script, but they're very excited. That's cool, man. I'm glad they're writing it. I figured that would have been written already, having the idea proposed. I know that there's been speculation about what it could possibly be, or what the story arc could possibly be. I've thrown out some ideas. If you guys haven't checked out those ideas, check out the video on the Labyrinth sequel up there in the top, guys. You can catch it on that video. All right, and of course, they don't get through this interview without mentioning Tilda Swinton, because this has been kind of a big deal with some of the fans out there. The question is, have you seen the fan campaigns to get Tilda Swinton to play the Goblin King? Lisa responds, I have read that. There are other fan campaigns too, and not everyone can be happy. We'll see how it's going. All right, so yeah, I mean, I know people are campaigning for Tilda Swinton. I don't care, as long as she's going to bring it, and I don't want her to play the Goblin King. The Goblin Queen is just fine. Let the Goblin King be his thing. It's David Bowie. He is the queen. I mean, he is the king. I mean, hell, he could be a queen too. It's David Bowie. He can be whatever the hell he wants. But I would like to see Tilda Swinton, if she is going to come in, play a totally different role. Goblin Queen, Goblin Queen, maybe the sister, maybe something along those lines. Maybe his mother. I don't know. You could do something more interesting than just replacing David Bowie as the Goblin King. Goblin Queen, not Goblin King. There's only one Goblin King. Sorry if you guys don't like that, but that's David Bowie. All right, guys, so that is the article. Basically, what we learned here is nothing really new. There's pretty much been nothing done for a Season 2 of Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. That's very unfortunate. Hopefully, somebody in quarantine is writing a storyline or something. I do find it interesting that we have 40% of Season 1 that was not shown. So that's, we have a 10-episode series out of 13 episodes that were originally written. I would love to see some of that stuff incorporated maybe into Season 2. If they can do it. So hopefully, again, somebody's out there writing this. That'd be great. All right, guys, so that is the video. Hopefully you like this video, guys. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. Make sure you hit that bell for notifications. And as always, guys, make sure you hit that subscription button. It always helps. So not much new information going on the Age of Resistance Season 2. Also, guys, don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys thought of the Age of Resistance. If you're excited for a Season 2, even if you don't care, let me know in the comments down below, guys. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I love all of you guys, and we will catch you on the other side. Peace.